So hello, everybody. Welcome back. Before we begin, we'll do a little bit of housekeeping for those who are watching from Facebook Live. So we always love to know where people are tuning in from, and also we love questions. So if you have any questions for any of the speakers or River Institute staff, you can put them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. So I'll just do a little countdown for Gabe from your TV, Kojiko. So Gabe, 3, 2, 1, it's all yours. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Science and Nature Untapped, a free virtual monthly speaker series brought to you by the River Institute. My name is Stephanie Hildebrand, and I'll be your host for this evening. Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that many of us are living on unceded land and traditional territory of Indigenous peoples. We are grateful for the opportunity to live where we do, and we thank all the generations of people who have continued their responsibilities to Mother Earth since time immemorial. You may have noticed I don't speak to a specific nation, and the reason for that is I know people are tuning in from all around, and so depending on where you're from, you'll be on a different territory. But for myself and for the River Institute, we're on Mohawk territory. If ever you are curious about whose territory you're visiting, whose territory you live on, or whose territory you work on, please visit native-land.ca. If you're interested in hearing more about our research, upcoming events, workshops, or educational programs, check us out on social media. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And ever since we've been doing the Science and Nature Untapped events online, they're all recorded. And if you ever wanted to rewatch one of them, you can go to our website, so riverinstitute.ca/untapped. For upcoming events on June 1st, we have Dr. Philip Loring coming from University of Guelph, who will be speaking to us about stories of coastal resistance and the climate change. So I hope to see you in June. Otherwise, we'll be taking a break for 2 months for Science and Nature Untapped, and we'll be back in September. A lot of events such as Science and Nature Untapped, our educational programs, our research are generously supported by sponsors and donors. If ever you're interested in making a donation to the River Institute, you can do so at riverinstitute.ca/donate. Otherwise, just interacting with our social media content or speaking to your friends, families, or colleagues about the work that we do goes a really, really long way. And so for tonight, I present you this photo and the year-end collaboration for the River Institute. We had chose this photo as a fitting image to show an effort of collaboration. This is from a behind the scenes from one of the community stories from the Great River Report. And so you see Dr. Lee McGuy here shining light on Kate Schwartz, both River Institute staff or former River Institute staff for Kate Schwartz. And so the presentation you'll be seeing this evening is actually a part of our annual report. And so if ever you're curious to take a deeper dive into any of the research you learn about tonight, I invite you to visit our website. There should be the link in the comment section. And so with that, I'll just say a really big thank you to Zach Swanenberg for all the behind the scenes work that he does as our IT specialist and our web developer. So Zach, just thank you so much for all the work you've been doing on all our virtual events in the last year. And with that, I'll pass it on to our Executive Director, Jeff Reidel.
Thanks, Stephanie. It's great to be able to be here this evening to talk about the River Institute and the year in review, a review of our activities over the past year. And also, it's a great opportunity, I think, as you'll see, is to sort of celebrate our collaborations. So that's our theme, to celebrate our partnerships and collaborations. And not a better fitting way to start it with this slide here showing the quote saying, "There is immense power when a group of people with similar interests get together to work towards the same goals." And I think, and that's also an appropriate to mention, and you saw that great picture there, is to also recognize the work of Stephanie Hildebrand, our host, and who you've been listening to at the speaker series, but she is also our visual creative director at the Institute, and she is responsible for a lot of these, most of them, almost all of these wonderful images you're going to see this evening, and also the content of this presentation. So thanks, Steph. A little shout out to you. The River Institute is in its 28th year currently as a non-profit, non-governmental research organizations. We were established in 1994, and we are focused on environmental research, and we provide a number of different services and activities that's shown along this slide, kind of this montage of activities, including lab services. We have an nationally accredited laboratory. We as well as taking on our research, of course, there's education work that we do that we're well known for, and the outreach programming. A lot of it is generated with the support of volunteers and partners. And one of the most important group of volunteers associated with the Institute are our board of directors. And we actually had our annual general meeting with our board this morning, and it was really great. It was actually, we did it in person. And it was really great to see our people again, those volunteers that inspire us so much. And if we go to the next slide, it was an opportunity, and we like to take this opportunity to recognize one of those volunteers, Pat Finucane. Pat Finucane, extremely well known in this community, and just, I don't know if everyone knows about the contribution he has made over the years to the River Institute. He is the past River Institute board chair. He was really, as I was saying to the group today, he was the reason why really the River Institute's building and its facility is located on the campus of St. Lawrence College. He was the director of St. Lawrence College at that time, and found a way to get us on that campus. But also he then became the foundation board chair as our fundraising arm and of the Institute, and initiated that. And just this past year, he decided it was time to sort of pass the reins on to other, and we just wanted to take a moment to say thank you, Pat, for all that you've done for us. We go to the next slide. There's another former director of the Institute that we acknowledged this past year as well, and that's Dr. Robin Poole. And he was the recipient of the annual River Award, an award that the River Institute is happy to honor recipients of those people who, whether they're people or organizations, that have made a significant contribution to the health and the protection of the river. And of course, Dr. Robin Poole is well known for his work with the Cooper Marsh wetland area and the works with the conservatives that he worked with there. And has made a significant impact. And he's a former board member, but it really is the work that he's done out in the environment that really is inspired us to honor him with this award. If we go to the next slide, it was just so we'll get started, and I want you to have a look at the team of people that I get the pleasure of working with every day. And it's just an incredible group of people, and some faces there that some people we've had some people come and go over the past year, as every organization has. So it is certainly a challenging. 2021 was a challenging kind of a roller coaster ride for people, because we're seeing these changes happening, but we really are so fortunate to be blessed with the actions and the real enthusiasm and contributions from all of our team members. So 2021 is a kind of also a stop-start with dealing with COVID, and yet, despite all of that, it was a really successful year for the Institute, and a number of great stories to tell. So one of the things we're going to do this evening is really give you the chance to hear those River Institute stories, and especially highlighting the partnerships that were created over the past year in those stories by those individuals themselves. And I'll get started by passing it over to our next speaker, and that's Courtney Holden. So Courtney.
Thank you, Jeff. Hi, I'm Courtney Holden, and I joined the River Institute as a research scientist in September of 2021. And my background is primarily in fish ecology and physiology. And I completed my PhD at Queen's University in December of 2020. And my thesis mainly focused on using otoliths, which are these little calcified tissues in fish that are essentially fish ears, and measuring stable isotopes in them to understand the interactions between American eels and their environment. And since starting at the River Institute, it's been a whirlwind of establishing my footing as a new scientist, and much of that has been in proposing new projects and establishing collaborations and relationships, both internally to the River Institute and also externally with other researchers in the area and local government and MCA and OPG, getting to meet private donors and also interacting with community groups like the Great River Network. And a lot of the focus of the projects that I'm proposing is on non-lethal methods to study fish populations in the St. Lawrence River. And some of the research that I've submitted grant applications for in the past couple of months include setting up an acoustic tracking network to follow the movements of lake sturgeon and American eels in the Lake St. Francis area, so below the dam, using a portable ultrasound unit that can be taken out on the boat to assess the reproductive status of fish, and mapping out the locations of eels that are injured by turbines and kind of understanding how they're swept by water currents into certain areas below the dam, and also helping to restore some critical fish habitat below the dam through the creation of rock reefs and sheltered refuges for fish. And I also plan to continue working with some of the existing projects at the River Institute, like the FINS program, and also the Great River Report, which you'll hear more about tonight. And I'm hoping to use those projects kind of as a jumping off point to identify some of the research gaps in the region, and then also create some next step action projects to address some of those gaps. So stay tuned. And next slide, please, Stephanie. And so this is an example of an existing eel project at the River Institute that's led by Matt Wendell. And this is an ongoing survey of American eel abundance and habitat use below the Moses Saunders Dam that took place annually between 2013 and 2017. And then we returned for a follow-up survey in October of 2021. And we captured about 30 eels using an electrofishing boat, and then took some external measurements and implanted a tag in them, and then released the eels back into the environment. And these types of surveys are really important because the data from them are shared with other researchers and dam operators, and they also help to inform government recovery strategies for the species. And in addition to the research, it was also just a really fun survey that we affectionately coined Eel Christmas, because everyone was so excited in the days leading up to it, and the planning and the night of, and the event lasted until almost 3 a.m. and everyone was still excited about eels by the end of it. And there was also a documentary film crew that aired on the BBC World's Most Scenic River Journey that was there filming the evening. And we also did a Facebook Live workshop of the event. And it was also attended by Christine Fitzgerald, who's pictured in the red jacket there photographing an eel. And she's a photographer and artist who's profiling the American eel in some of her mixed media work. And so this type of event kind of gave her and others the opportunity to see live eels and gain some inspiration for artwork. And the surveys also helped to inspire some of the ideas for the grant applications that I worked on in the following months. So thank you again to Matt Wendell for organizing the survey, and to everyone who came out and helped throughout the night. And with that, I will pass it on to Matt Wendell.
Thanks, Courtney. My name is Matt Wendell, and I'm a research scientist and program lead at the River Institute, leading research and technical services. I do a lot of research at the St. Lawrence River that's focused on the St. Lawrence River, and I'm excited to tell you about a few of these projects. So I'll start with the FINS project, which stands for Fish Identification Nearshore Survey. And this is a project that has the overall objective of studying aquatic ecosystems and nearshore fish populations of the upper St. Lawrence River, which in turn can provide us insights into the health of the overall ecosystem. FINS is our largest field research program at the Institute. It started in 2015, and we're headed into our 8th field season this year. It's an important partnership with the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne's Environment Program. And working together, we have generated one of the largest environmental databases for the upper St. Lawrence River. The project is a fantastic opportunity for research collaboration and connecting with others that just want to learn about the St. Lawrence River. In the past 7 years, we have worked with researchers from 6 universities, as well as federal and provincial government agencies, conservation authorities, and Indigenous groups. And FINS has been a great opportunity to address issues concerning Indigenous communities along the river, such as filling in knowledge gaps about biodiversity and invasive species. And it has also provided education and outreach and highly specialized technical training using state-of-the-art equipment and methods. And I'll feature some of these coming up. Next slide. The FINS project has a huge field component. It involves fish and habitat surveys along hundreds of kilometers of river shoreline. Last year, we persevered through a second year of pandemic restrictions and had another amazing field season, documenting over 24,000 fish from 39 species at over 50 sites in the St. Lawrence River, and recently Lake Ontario. This included mapping out the locations of species at risk, like the pug-nosed shiner in the upper right corner of this slide. This information is helping provide critical information to recovery strategies for species at risk, as well as providing knowledge about the baseline conditions of the nearshore areas of the river. Next slide. In recent years, we've incorporated new and exciting technologies into FINS. This has included the use of drones, with highly specialized camera systems. And these help us map out habitats from above and provide insights into the habitat features that we would miss from the ground. Last year, our pilots conducted over 70 flights and generated high-resolution maps from over 100,000 images. This project has led the way as part of an expanding effort at the River Institute to provide training and research applications using drone technologies. Next slide. This might look like weeds to the average person, but in fact, these are aquatic plants that provide critical habitat for fish, invertebrates, and other ecosystem benefits. So documenting aquatic plants and other habitat features, such as water quality, are important parts of the survey. For example, we have documented that the invasive Eurasian milfoil plant is present at the majority of our sites in the river, unfortunately. Next slide. Another new and exciting tool that we're using with the project is environmental DNA. So every living thing that lives in the river sheds tiny amounts of its DNA into the water. We can collect water samples, filter, amplify, and sequence this eDNA to learn about what species are present at a location. And that could include species at risk, such as American eels, and new invasive species, such as the tube-nosed goby. This eDNA research is being done in close collaboration with Dr. Stephen Lougheed and his students and staff at Queen's University, who have been analyzing our project samples and are also providing support for establishing similar laboratory facilities at the River Institute. So if you're interested to learn more, please check out the FINS project website and Instagram accounts. And thank you to our funding from OPG, the Trottier Foundation, Muskies Canada, and the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. Next slide. Last year, we started a great collaborative research project with the Great River Network and Ottawa University, funded by Fisheries and Oceans Canada, to study the ecological impacts of waves and shoreline erosion on nearshore habitats of the St. Lawrence River. And this summer, we will be installing sensors in the river at various locations to record wave energy, erosion, and water quality resulting from shipping traffic. And we will be also using drones and conducting habitat surveys to evaluate these locations. All this together should inform and result in recommendations for reducing these impacts along the river. Next slide. The last project I want to tell you about is a collaboration with the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne's Environment Program to examine contamination in edible fish in the Akwesasne territory of the St. Lawrence River. Last year was the second year of the project, and we worked together to collect over 300 fish from 9 species. Tissues from these fish were collected and submitted to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks to analyze for the presence of mercury in PCBs. This MCA-led project will help inform much-needed fish consumption guidelines for the Akwesasne community. Thank you to our great field and lab staff for all of their work with these projects, including Kate, Evan, Mackenzie, Emily, Annabelle, Marianne, Crystal, Luke, and Stephanie Hildebrand for her wonderful photos from the projects, which were just recently featured in Canadian Geographic. And now I'll pass it on to Crystal.
Thanks, Matt. So hi, my name is Crystal Martel. I'm the Quality Control and Biosafety Officer for Analytical Services at the River Institute. The River Institute's Analytical Laboratory is a service laboratory nationally accredited by the Canadian Association for Laboratory Accreditation and is licensed as a Level 2 Pathogens and Toxins Laboratory by the Public Health Agency of Canada. This accreditation and license provides a strong foundation for the work the laboratory provides to its clients. It also allows us to support St. Lawrence College with its microbiology courses for the E-Tech students and the nurses. Our analytical laboratory supports environmental testing, training, and customized research for both internal and external clients. Having a laboratory on site is really valuable for both for supporting all the research that's done at the Institute and the education programs, as well as being a local resource for community and industry needs. During the year 2021, the laboratory played a key role in many of the River Institute's research programs. We participated in programs like Lake Simcoe, FINS, that Matt just spoke about, and Graphoid. Along with this, our continued work with the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne's wastewater treatment plant and a local hydroponic farm is ongoing. Recently, the evaluated its vision and is focusing its efforts on growing our internal capacity. In support of the work done at the River Institute, we're looking forward to growing our expertise and offering new cutting-edge analysis in 2022. Thank you, and I'll pass it off to Josh.
Thanks, Crystal. My name is Josh Fillion. I'm the project specialist for the River Labs program within the River Institute. So a bit about River Labs. River Labs is our applied research extension of the River Institute. Our main mission is to work with clients, whether that be businesses, ministries, or municipalities, to assist and provide help for ongoing environmental issues, whether that be wastewater, novel lawn treatments, or environmental monitoring. A big partner of ours is the St. Lawrence College. We've worked on several projects with them, and really we help industries and green startups, small to medium-sized enterprises tackle whatever challenge at hand. We do this by using our deep experienced staff of PhDs and researchers to establish projects to really tackle these issues. So it's been as Dr. Rydell alluded to, it's been a challenging year with some staff turnover and COVID implications that really stress some of these sampling schedules and project schedules. With that said, it's still been a very productive year. We were able to successfully deliver 12 projects in total. Of these 12 projects, 9 were in partnership with St. Lawrence College, which has really become a strong partnership, and looking forward to a great 2022 with them as well. Another large project that we worked on that Crystal mentioned earlier was our Lake Simcoe project. For this project, we're looking at really finding a way to really model and use GIS technologies to locate nutrient transport. How is a phosphorus getting into Lake Simcoe and its tributaries? And how can we really map that out? How can we find where it's going? So that was our largest project completed this year. And that was phase 3 of the project in 2021. The project originally kicked off in 2015, and there's potential discussions for future phases of the project moving on to 2022. All that to say, it's been a great year for River Labs, and really looking forward to a successful 2022. And with that, I'll pass it along to Marianne.
Hi everyone, my name is Marianne Perron. I'm a MyTax postdoctoral researcher at the River Institute. I work in collaboration with the University of Ottawa to conduct my dragonfly research. So dragonflies are semi-aquatic insects, and they could tell you a lot about the health of freshwater systems. So last summer, so the summer of 2021, I conducted a dragonfly research project along the Mississippi River, which is just west of Ottawa. And this river is super special because it holds a number of rare dragonfly species, including the endangered Rapids clubtail. So I conducted the research project during the summer last year with help from my field assistants, Liam and Sam, and we surveyed over 1,200 adult dragonflies and collected over 1,200 exuviae. So exuviae are the shell that is left behind when a dragonfly emerges into its adulthood. So you could see on the top right panel of the slides here, that's a dragon hunter. So that's actually my favorite dragonfly, and we found many of them in the Mississippi River. We also sampled a set of environmental variables, and we're hoping that these environmental variables are going to help us determine why there's so many amazing dragonfly species in the Mississippi River, and hopefully be able to provide recommendations on how to protect our river dragonfly species, which are very much under threat right now with habitat change. Thank you very much, and I'm going to pass it off to Silvia now.
Thank you, Marianne. Hi, good evening to everyone. I'm Silvia Rodriguez from Guadalajara. I have a bachelor degree in biology from the University of Guadalajara, and I have worked in environmental, like as a lab assistant, environmental and social impact, and technician in natural reserve in Mexico. I also been volunteer in different countries in conservation and water quality, and that's how I arrived to the River Institute in 2019 to volunteer with the Great River Report and FINS project. Right now, I'm doing my master in environmental science at the University of Quebec at Trois-Rivières in collaboration with the River Institute. My project is about the change of the bacterial community in response to environmental change and anthropogenic inputs in the San Lawrence River. This is carried out in the Lamsilis, the boat research that you can see on the page. This boat is taking samples over the past few years from Lake Ontario to Coquina in Quebec, and has a lot of scientists contributing in different projects from Ontario, Quebec, and United States. Last summer, the River Institute has the opportunity to bring some water samplings from nearshore to the Lamsilis in collaboration with UQTR and MCA, and we hope to do it this summer as well. Thank you, and I pass to Catherine.
Thanks, Sylvia. Okay, so we're going to stay in the lower food web here, moving from bacteria to algae and invertebrates. So my name is Catherine Moyer. I'm a PhD candidate at Queen's University in Kingston, and I work with the River Institute on my research. There are actually two of us in our lab, which is a paleoecology lab. So myself and Isaac Armstrong, who is also a PhD candidate, who are both working on the river. And so what our lab does is essentially, in certain parts of the river, sediment accumulates on the bottom. And if it's left undisturbed, you can essentially use that sediment to infer past environmental conditions based on what you find in the sediment. So there are various physical, chemical, and biological indicators you can use. Certain things get preserved in the sediments really well, which you can then use to try to fill in gaps in your data. So, especially if you're looking at long-term trends over kind of a century or so, prior to 30 or 40 years ago, those, monitoring data are really hard to come by in many parts of the world. So that's essentially what we look at. And Isaac and I are really focused on trying to figure out how different environmental stressors interact to influence the communities of aquatic organisms that live in the river. So again, in my case, I'm looking at algae. Isaac is looking at benthic invertebrates and zooplankton. And so we're looking at things like climate change, nutrient enrichment, historical sediment contamination, things like that, to try to figure out how these various factors come in and interact to change communities. So in the last year, we've published together about 3 papers that have come out in peer-reviewed journals. So that's the bulk of what we've been doing for the last year or so, is writing papers about our research. But Isaac's going to be going back out into the field actually in a couple of weeks, heading west to the Bay of Quinte to look at some more sites, looking at, again, aquatic invertebrates to see, well, are we seeing the same trends that we're seeing in the St. Lawrence when we have slightly different stressors, although multiple stressors at the same time. So when we don't have, real-time water quality data, this is a great tool to use. But if you do have lots of data, that can also be really cool and really interesting to look at as well. So I'm going to pass it along to Luke, who's going to talk about some modern day data that we have.
Thanks, Catherine. So my name is Luc Saint-Pierre, and I'm the lab coordinator here at the River Institute, and I'm also involved in the REASON project. And the REASON project stands for River Environment Assessment and Sensing Observing Network Project. It's a collaboration between the River Institute and Clarkson University in Potsdam, New York. And most recently, the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne has joined the project. So this project focuses on installing state-of-the-art water sensors in the Moses Saunders Dam on both the US side and the Canadian side. This is to monitor water quality parameters over a long period of time, so for many years. In 2014, the first sensors were installed by Dr. Michael Twiss at Clarkson University on the US side of the dam. And then in 2017, the River Institute installed the exact same sensors on the Canadian side. And so this is for us to be able to together create large sets of data, which allows us to monitor the trends on the North Shore and the South Shore and observe water quality over time. And then through statistical analysis of the data, we hope to further understand the river's water quality, the human impact on the river and its effects on the ecosystem, as well as changes due to climate change. Most recently, new sensors were acquired through a partnership with the University of Windsor and their Rayon group to include extra monitoring stations in Akwesasne. So now the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne are going to be involved so that they can further develop knowledge of the river's overall health and how it's related to their community and ecosystem at large. So thank you, and now I'd like to pass it off to Georgia.
Thank you. Hi, yeah, I'm Georgia Bach. I'm the St. Lawrence River Remedial Action Plan Coordinator for the St. Lawrence River Cornwall Akwesasne Area of Concern. So this past year, we've been working collaboratively with many initiatives to restore the area of concern. So one of the many things that I've been doing is actually working closely with the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne and their RAP coordinator, Brittany Bordage. We've actually come up with the joint communications plan and created many things together, like newspaper spreads, informational videos, presentations, events, social media posts, and more. We've also been working closely with the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne on other projects, like the co-led fish contaminant project that Matt had spoken to earlier. So that project actually addresses fish consumption in the area of concern. Looking forward this year, we actually have quite a few projects lined up that are working with MCA, but also with other organizations as well. So one is the Watersheds Canada project, which is the Natural Edge project. You might have heard about it already in the community. It's been going on for, I think, about a year now, and it has 2 more years, I think. So you might see people restoring their shorelines, and it's a project in the community. There's also eutrophication sampling, which will be going on with the River Institute, Mohawk Council of Akwesasne, and the Raisin Region Conservation Authority. And we've actually also started a river strategy, which Yannick Rosen will also speak to later today. If you want to learn more about the St. Lawrence River St. Lawrence River Remedial Action Plan, please visit stlawrenceriverrap.ca. Yeah, I only have a short period of time, and it's a very big project. So if you could visit that and learn more, that would be great. Can you please pass the next slide? So I was also involved in the Great River cleanup with the Great River Network. And that was a project that happened in the fall of 2022. And there were a number of community volunteers, so about 10 organizers. It was a little smaller than it had been in the past. We've done these cleanups in the past, but that was mainly due to COVID. So this year, there had been 2 years of divers like staging debris in the air near the Cornwall Harbor. And then we got a crane in and picked up all this debris and put it into containers to take away. So we actually got quite a few things like mattresses, bicycles, grocery carts, lots of random things. And in the end, yeah, 40 tons of garbage has been removed from the river completely with all the projects. So it's actually quite a great initiative that the Great River Network pretty much runs, and we help organize it. And this project was funded through the Great Lakes Local Action Fund. And it's one of the many initiatives from the Great River Report, which Lee and her team will be speaking to later. So I'm going to pass it on to Brian.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the research I've been undertaking in the past year. As many of you probably know, some of you have probably heard me talk about this. Bats have undergone massive population declines in North America to the point where several species are now endangered. So much of my work over the past decade has involved helping the recovery of these endangered species. And over the last 5 to 10 years, I've worked with many landowners. The theme of this year's presentation is partnerships, and I've worked with more than 100 partners, 100 landowners and agencies who have received bat houses on their property. I've built and installed with my team more than 175 of these bat houses. And as of the end of last summer, 18 of these bat houses now have colonies of endangered little brown bats. And some of these colonies are becoming quite large. Some of them are over 100 bats in a single bat house. So the good news is these populations of endangered bats seem to be showing signs of recovery. The other aspect of my research has been looking at the potential threats of mercury to these bats. And I'm sure if you follow River Institute activities, you've heard about mercury and how it gets into aquatic ecosystems, deposits or gets deposited in sediments, and from there it works its way into the aquatic food web, into invertebrates and fish that you've heard others talk about tonight. But some of that mercury moves from the aquatic environments and into terrestrial ecosystem. And the way it does that is it accumulates in insects that live in the sediments. And when those insects turn into adult flying insects, they leave the aquatic environment and they're consumed by swallows and of course bats. And one of the things I've discovered several years ago is that bats, for some reason, have mercury concentrations that are anywhere between 10 and 100 times higher than what you'd expect for a bat, for an animal that lives in the food chain where a bat does. It feeds at the top of a very short food chain. It eats insects exclusively. So you don't expect high concentrations of mercury in such an animal. So we know mercury is much higher than we expect. We know mercury in bats is at levels that in other animals would show signs of harm, but bats seem to be just doing bat things without any apparent impact. So 2 of my graduate students, one who's just finished up and one who's just beginning, are looking to see whether in fact bats really are doing okay with these high levels of mercury. One of them, the one who's just finished, Bailey Bedard, has been looking at how mercury affects or causes changes at the genetic level, at the DNA level. Another one just starting, Sarah Greenwood, she's going to be looking at stress hormones to see whether bats are showing signs of stress, even though we're not seeing any obvious outward signs of that stress. So that's just 2 aspects of the research I've been undertaking the past year. The other part of my job is to coordinate our education and outreach slides with the amazing team you see beside me here. And one of the unique things and one of the things that really distinguishes the River Institute's education programs is the way we get our scientists to interact directly with students, with young students, with elementary school students, right up to high school students. And that's been a challenge, of course, in the last couple of years with the pandemic and having to move things online. But we've managed to move our programs online, but still maintain that personal contact. Students get to talk directly online with the scientists who are undertaking some of the work we're using as the focal point for our education activities. And one upside of this change to online delivery has been we've been able to reach students as far away in Canada as British Columbia. And in fact, I had one program where I had these were not students, these were adult learners that were tuning in from 4 or 5 different countries as far away as Australia. And we've also done at least 2 programs actually to schools in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. So it's been really exciting to reach much further in a geographic sense. And our challenge going forward now is to capitalize on these gains we've made, expanding our reach geographically, maintaining that as we move back to face-to-face programs. And one of the ways we're hoping to do this is with a new partnership with Ocean School, which is a collaboration between Dalhousie University and the National Film Board. And they've been producing virtual reality material with an ocean theme. They're going to move up into the St. Lawrence River. They're going to develop virtual reality modules about the St. Lawrence River and about some of the kinds of research we do at the River Institute, so that we can pair that virtual reality approach that can reach much further than the immediate Cornwall area with our hands-on programs that we do in the river right in our own backyard. So with that, I'll pass it on to Dr. Lee McGaughey, who will tell you about a really great project called the St. Lawrence River Rapport.
Thanks so much, Brian. Hi, everyone. I'm Lee McGaughey. I am a research scientist at the River Institute, and I'm also the program lead for research and outreach. I lead the Great River Report, as Brian mentioned, and that is an ecosystem health report on the Upper St. Lawrence River. And the project was started in partnership with the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne, and it's been a really great project to be involved with. 2021 was an amazing year for us. We were able to share community stories, we were able to share workshops, actions, and we also made a lot of progress on our scientific indicators. And I'm only going to speak to you very briefly tonight. Our various team members will update you on those 3 elements, but I did want to highlight the partnership. So if we go to the next slide, we've had, because the River Report is trying to bring the data for the project together, so scientific indicators, community groups and environmental groups all together. It's a platform where we have a lot of really great partnerships. So it's been a project where we've been able to strengthen existing partnerships at the River Institute, and we've also made many new partnerships. And just want to highlight one that we were really excited about for 2021, and that is our partnership with Maitland Tower and Door Number 1. A really great initiative in the Brockville area, and it's just going from strength to strength, and I look forward to what we're going to do with this partnership going into this year and beyond. I'm going to hand over to my team members, and the first of those is Marianne Perron.
Hi everyone, I'm back. So when I'm not out identifying dragonflies, I'm working hard and leading a team of brilliant scientists to try to get advance the scientific elements of the River Report. So this project has been going on for the last 4 years now, and we've consulted with the community, and we have also consulted with the scientists. And in 2020, we chose a set of 35 ecological indicators that describe the health of the Upper St. Lawrence River. I've been on this project now for over 2 years, and for the past 2 years, we have been gathering all the data sets on the research for the Upper St. Lawrence River together, analyzing that data and determining the trends in our 35 ecological indicators. And last year, in the fall of last year, we presented some of our preliminary findings to our subcommittee, and they encouraged us to do a deeper dive to try to figure out why are we seeing these trends and to have the answers that the public wants. I am very happy to tell you that some of our fish indicators are nearing completion, and we're hoping to have those released at the end of the summer or in the early fall. And we have a lot of good information for the community. So we're working right now with Stephanie Hildebrand and Dima Yerovoy to try to figure out what is the best way to communicate this science with the public. So we're working on infographics for these indicators. So we have completed the yellow perch indicator, and this is just an example of one of these infographics. So yellow perch are ecologically, culturally, and economically significant species for the Upper St. Lawrence River. As you can see in this infographic here, they're very abundant in the river, and they actually make up on average about 42% of all fish caught in gillnet surveys, and are actually also the #1 caught fish commercially and recreationally. So this is just an example of one of the infographics for the yellow perch indicator. Next slide, please. And why are we seeing some of these trends? So it's well known that yellow perch populations have been declining since the 1970s. So one of the influences that we found on yellow perch population has to do with nutrient concentration. So when we have a lot of nutrients in the river, we actually have a high amount, or I guess high size of yellow perch population. So in that period of nutrient enrichment, between the 1940s and the 1970s, we had large yellow perch populations. And with the nutrient abatement program, so we're seeing a decrease in nutrients in the river right now. So we're getting smaller yellow perch populations. And these yellow perch populations are actually similar size to what we saw before the nutrient enrichment period in the river. So thank you a lot to Steph and Dima for getting some of these infographics ready, but we're just scratching the surface with the yellow perch. So I hope you guys are really excited to see what we found. Next slide, please. This is just some of the data we got together so far for the northern pike. So the northern pike indicator is almost completed as well. So this is the historical commercial harvest of northern pike in Lake Ontario and the Upper St. Lawrence River. And you can see that there has been a pretty steady decline historically and presently in the Upper St. Lawrence River. So over the past 100 years, we have seen northern pike populations declining in the Upper St. Lawrence River. So stay tuned. We do have a lot of answers for you. I want to thank you all for your patience. This work is really tedious, and we're trying to get all the information we can for you. So keep your eye on our website at the end of summer and early fall, and we should have a lot of information out for you on the fish indicators and several other indicators as well. So I'd like to thank my whole team that is working with me on the scientific component of the river report, and I'd like to pass it over to Stephanie Hildebrand. Thank you.
Hello again, everybody. So I also work on the Great River Report, taking care of the visual aspect and the communications, as well as the website design and the infographics. But one of the most exciting piece that I had the chance to work on was a set of 10 community stories. And so this was initiated at the end of 2020. When we were speaking about that pillar of the community, and previously we had asked the community about their concerns and what they enjoyed doing on the river, and so this informed the scientific indicators that we chose for the report. And so Dr. Lee McGaughey had reconnected with the community members, had been following the project from the very beginning, and then we decided, okay, let's do these stories to just like uplift their experiences and their knowledge on the river. We pitched the stories to Perch Magazine, a local magazine, through their editor, Chantal Tranche-Montagne, and all the stories were published on their online platform in the summer of 2021. Also, if ever you wanted to share your story and you think you have a story that you'd love to tell us about, you can go to our website and the link will be in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, we would love to have more stories to incorporate into the Great River Report. So thank you again, Perch Magazine. Shout out to Chantal Tranche-Montagne. And I will pass it on to Yannick.
So hi everyone, my name is Yannick Brozo and I am the project coordinator for the St. Lawrence River Strategy. So this year we have had a really great year of workshops and outreach initiatives. And so we have had over 25 different workshops that we have ran, including 16 which were part of the Great River Report workshops. And so these ranged from lots of different areas, including a medicinal tea tasting workshop, a bird identification workshop, and even like a beaver skinning workshop. So, and the aim of them was to engage community members in different aspects of the project, ranging from the environmental indicators to the traditional ecological knowledge and the local environmental efforts. So we had over 16 for the Great River Report, and we also have held some workshops as part of the Future Climate Leader Project, which has been working with high school classes in order to provide youth with the opportunity to share their thoughts of how climate change can be addressed at the local scale. And it's been wonderful to hear their ideas, and it's always really impressive to hear how forward-thinking our community's youth are. So if I can get the next slide, please. This year, we have also started a new project called the St. Lawrence River Strategy, which is a framework to get everyone along the upper St. Lawrence River to come together and to provide and create a common agenda for community action on the upper St. Lawrence River. And as part of the project, we have held 2 workshops, the first of which was on May 11th, and it was an Akwesasne community meeting, and we had the chance to hear from community members of their input as the project is being conducted in partnership with the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne and is being done through A2 Idseeing to Wampum. And on May 17th, we have had a second workshop, which had over 60 stakeholders along the upper St. Lawrence River and on both sides of the river, and we were able to get their input, and it was a great moment for collaboration and partnerships along the entire river. So if I can get the next slide, please, and I'll pass it on over to Emily DeRushy. Thanks.
My name's Emily DeRushy, and I'm an educator and research assistant with the Great River Report. So every year, the River Institute hosts a river symposium. So back in 2020, this event was forced to go fully online. But since then, for our 2021 River Symposium, which was themed Global Challenges, Local Concerns, we were able to bring back that in-person component once again. So for 2021, we hosted our first day, Community Day, at the Ramada Inn and Conference Center here in Cornwall, where we were able to welcome back audience members, our organizations to host booths, and even students from a local high school to take part in the education team's fish tank case study competition. It was really nice to have people back in person once again, just to network, talk with one another, and just engage and learn from one another. So this event was not only in person, we also had it live streamed to our virtual audiences as well. And not only did we have it live streamed out, we actually live streamed in some of our plenary speakers. Plenary speakers included Elizabeth Hoover, who spoke about her book, The River is in Us, George Karunas, who is a National Geographic explorer, Abraham Francis from MCA, and Tony Ricciardi, who studies invasive species on the St. Lawrence River. Our second day was Science Day, and this was a fully online event. We found that we really benefited from having this online component compared to before, because we were actually able to reach more global audiences. We had some people from different regions of the world, and more so than we could reach if we were just here in Cornwall. Can I have the next slide, please? So that brings us to our 2022 River Symposium. The theme will be Ways of Knowing, and this will highlight the different ways of knowing around the river. So this includes traditional knowledge, community, art, and of course, science. This will take place October 26th and 27th this year. And just so that everyone knows, it will occur at the Ramada Inn and Conference Center for one day once again, and then it will be fully online for the second. Our first day will be online as well for our virtual audiences, and we have a call for sessions currently out for anybody interested in submitting or to be a session chair. So you can check out our Facebook page for that. I'll pass it on to Christina Cullard. Thank you.
All right, well, I'm the last speaker. We definitely know how to pack it in and give a really great presentation on the St. Lawrence River. So I'm Christina Cullard. I'm the program leader for administration and fundraising and have been with the River Institute for 28 years. So it's been a long time, and I'm always amazed at these great presentations, and I always learn something every time I listen to all these amazing people that we have working for us, and for them to be able to share their stories and just the great work that goes on. Thank you so much to everybody to all our staff tonight. And also I want to thank the staff that weren't here, obviously, otherwise we would be here maybe all night. So I want to thank the staff who didn't present, and also shout out to Pam Maloney, our Fund Development Officer, who works behind the scenes to help facilitate the writing for the annual report. And also I want to thank Jeff Rydell for his leadership over the years, who's been a member of the staff for 27 years. So thank you, everyone. And one more thank you to Jen Lozo and Jennifer Jarvis, who work as my assistants, again, behind the scenes. So the River Institute has had a very successful year. We closed our 2021 year with a $1.8 million budget, and in comparison to 1.5. So COVID didn't stop our research team, our education programs from thriving, and also we had a small surplus, which you'll see once you look at the annual report. I'd also like to thank Jackie Baird for her oversight and support. She's our River Institute treasurer. So we continue to grow and strive as a leader in the environment right here in Cornwall. Hard to believe River Institute is now making international strides and able to communicate with people all over the world. So we're thrilled, and it's been something that we've been talking about for years as a leader and a center of excellence. So all good things come, for sure. I want to say a special thank you to our River Champions, our donors, our sponsors, our contributors, our collaborators for their commitments over the years. Without you, the River Institute would not exist. And I want to thank everyone again for joining us for our live event. And don't forget, you can see this on our YouTube channel, as well as on our River Institute platform. And don't forget to join our platforms if you haven't already. We have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, obviously LinkedIn. So we're well connected in the social media front, and don't be shy to reach out to us anytime. Call us for information and to speak to one of our scientists. We're always available. So I'm going to pass it to the wonderful Steph Hildebrand, who has done an amazing job on our report. And please take the time to go and download it and look at it and read it. You'll learn a lot more. Who will ask questions?
Thank you so much, Christina, for closing up the presentation. I'll just take a moment before we start with the questions to say goodbye to everybody who's watching from Cogeco, your TV. So thank you again, as always, for tuning in. And I look forward to the next presentation in June with Philip Loring about coastal resistance and the climate crisis. Great, so thank you so much again to everybody who presented, for taking the time out of your evening, for joining us. It's pretty incredible how much we got done in the last year, and I feel very, very proud to be working with all of you. So yeah, I guess we'll open the floor for questions or comments, and I might be looking down at my phone to look at Facebook to see what's coming in. So I definitely have a few comments. I have a hello and thank you for the presentation from Heika Feki. We have Bruce Kahn joining in from Valmy, Georgia. Said looking forward to continuing our research on St. Lawrence River Valley mosquitoes this July. So we're also looking forward to working with you, Bruce. We have Tara Dore, she says hello from Batesville, Ontario. Thank you for sharing your findings and all the great research you do on the river. Bruce Kahn again, he commented, he says, hooray for dragonflies. So let's call out for Marianne. François Guillemette, one of our collaborators from the University de Quebec at Trois-Rivières, he says happy to work on the small stuff. I guess he's meaning bacteria in collaboration with the River Institute. And we have Philip Ling is saying the River Institute is truly a jewel on the St. Lawrence. Amazing people, amazing mission. So excited to be part of the family. So thank you so much, Phil. And then we have Jordan Ankavan from one of the instructors And I think the lead of the environmental technician program. She says a huge congratulations for another successful year of research, education, and outreach. We are so lucky to have you in our community. And Jordan used to also work at the River Institute. I guess it's mostly comments. I'm not getting any questions for the staff yet. So another comment from Elaine Kennedy. She says, excellent presentation. Congratulations to all the staff. You're doing so much to improve our great river. So those are lovely comments. Thank you so much, everybody. I guess maybe I'll leave a couple minutes to see if we have any questions come in, but otherwise, I guess we might wrap it up. Okay, I think we did a really great job and we filled in all the information. So thank you again for everyone who joined us. And as I said before, we'll see you in June for the next Science and Nature Untapped, and then taking a break for July and August, and we'll be back in September. So thank you and have a great evening.